Hello and welcome to our Q&A in preparation for our course, Mastering Your Energetic Field as an Empath or Highly Sensitive Person. I'm Ann Patricio from the Shift Network, and it's my pleasure to be your host today as we explore the teachings of Bevin Niemann and address questions about her course, which begins on Wednesday, May the 6th at 9 a.m. Pacific. Now, if you're unable to join us live to participate for this course, no worries. I'll explain more about that later, how you can participate even if you can't be with us. But first, I'd like to introduce my guest. Bevin Niemann is a life purpose coach for intuitive empaths, light workers, and conscious leaders. She specializes in helping holistic wellness and spiritual practitioners launch and expand through soul-driven, mission-driven discovery and intuitive business development. I'm going to just say that one more time. She specializes in helping holistic wellness and spiritual practitioners launch and expand through soul mission discovery and intuitive business development. She's the two-time host of our Evolved Empath Summit, and Bevin is the founder of a global community, 1 Million Empaths. It's been such a pleasure of mine to work closely with Bevin to develop this course. I'm her course manager, and I'm looking so forward to this hour with her. So I invite you to join me in welcoming Bevin. Welcome, Bevin. Nice to have you here.
Hello, Anne. I'm just so excited to be here with you today and to be connecting with everyone who's tuning in live or will be watching this later. Thank you so much. I'm just really excited to chat, to field these questions, and to really get some deeper clarity on why it's so important right now to talk about empath resilience and mastering our energy field.
Yes, we're looking forward to this too. I'd love to invite you to lead us in an opening practice.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I had noticed about myself pretty early on in my life is what I was able to sense collective energy. So it's sort of one thing, Anne, to be, in a room with someone else as an empath and to be sensing the emotions that are coming up for them and to know like, oh, that person's upset, so I'm kind of picking up on that. It's a whole nother thing for those who are tuning in today, including myself, to be sensing all of this energy, all of these messages coming in, and you really don't understand the source of all of that. And so I found that for a long time in my life, I would just kind of shut all of that down, or tried to anyway. And that had some really deep impact on my emotional health, my mental health, my physical health. And so more recently, what I've decided is because I'm able to be a vessel for that energy resonance, that collective energy, and some people can sense that, for their entire neighborhood or perhaps their city or their country or even a global sphere. I wanted to just allow it to flow through me and then back out again. So what I do every single morning is I feed my cat, which is the top priority. Then I get a nice cup of tea and I go into a meditative state and use tarot and oracle cards to really bring forward a story. What is emerging right now in the collective? How can I be of service today? What is it that I need to know and be aware of? And how do I take that energy, allow it to flow through me, and then release it out? And what emerged today with the cards, and I wanted to share just a few of them with our viewers, is really the journey that I've been on as an empath and the journey that we're proposing to take everyone through in this course that's coming up over the next 8 weeks. So this is our first card. And the first card is really what it feels like to be an empath when you are really overwhelmed by energy. You're just sort of peeking out around the corner and going, the world seems really overwhelming. And I found myself in this place. It's very, very common, especially when we don't really know that this is what's happening. We think something's wrong with us. We think that maybe we're just not strong enough, and this is a difficult place to be. And yet I've found that a lot of people that I've worked with, a lot of my clients have been in this place when they started on this journey. But it's not a place that we have to stay. And what usually happens is we begin to get curious. We start to peek out and go, I wonder what else is out there. And this often involves a lot of research and soul searching. And you can see there's a little dove up in the corner. So it's like, I know that I don't necessarily have to stay in this state at some level. Like, I know there's peace, there's serenity, there's vitality. But this is just sort of that beginning to emerge, beginning to explore those empath gifts. And then generally most people, including myself, go into this cycle, which is really taking a deep dive into who am I? Who am I at all levels? So we have sort of our physical presence here in the middle, in the shamanic tradition, they would call that the middle world, right? This is our human persona. We have the opening of our higher self, our higher nature. And then we have, all of this sort of shadow self, any of those places where we've been hurt or we've been holding on to old energy. Perhaps there are people who can resonate with being in codependent or narcissistic relationships, all of these things, what happened in our family, in our childhood. And this is that part of healing and exploring all of this and really understanding who we are. And that process happens by tuning in, just getting quiet and really tuning in and opening your intuitive mind, opening your empathic senses, and actually moving towards them and embracing and honoring them rather than trying to hide back. So we say that anything that we resist persists, right? So when we open ourselves, we can just allow that energy to flow through and just to be a message instead of something that we have to embody and take on and hold and take responsibility for. And when that happens, when we allow that energy to flow through, we come into this place, which is really a deep sense of self. I'll move it a little bit closer here so we can see. And even though you can see that there are some difficult energies maybe surrounding her, she's very grounded and centered, very secure in her solar plexus and her heart chakra. And of course, the doves are now expansive above. There's a sense of peace and a deepening sense of peace. And this is one of the things that we're really going to cover, particularly in the first week of this course, is how to recalibrate yourself, how to understand your personal energetic baseline is what I call it, your unique vibratory hum that allows you to come back each time you get a little bit overwhelmed or things in your life shift and change and you react to that. How do you come back into that calm state? What are some tools and some practices that you can use to do that? So I'm really excited. Thank you for allowing me to share this empath journey as it unfolded this morning from the collective energy. I'm really excited to field questions and help anyone who's on the call to learn a little bit more about themselves and come deeper into their mastery.
Thanks so much for sharing that with us, Bevin. We appreciate it. So we'll spend the rest of our time here together exploring your questions for Bevin as we prepare for her course, Mastering Your Energetic Field as an Empath or Highly Sensitive Person, which begins on Wednesday, May the 6th at 9 Pacific. Please go over and visit our website, resilientempathcourse.com, to learn more about this 8-module course. You'll find a link there to register as well. That's resilientempathcourse.com. Now let's get started with your questions. Thank you to all of you who submitted questions ahead of time through our webcast. Really appreciate it. And for those of you joining us live, please type your question into the chat and I'll be happy to read them out for you. We're going to start with a question that came in through our webcast. This one, actually, several people, including Beth, were asking, how do you really know you're an empath?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. And I have a lot of people that have asked that, sort of the foundational question, right? And so there are highly sensitive people, which are about 20 to 25% of all human beings. And I actually studied with Dr. Elaine Aron, who wrote the book on high sensitivity and did all of the foundational research. And those are people whose brain and nervous system is more open to stimulus in the environment. They do deeper depth of processing, so we're very deep thinkers, have a wider emotional range of responsiveness. So we respond more to those things which are really positive and more to those things which are difficult or challenging in our lives. We notice all of the little subtleties. So whether that's the subtleties in a scent that's in the room, or whether that's in a picture, we notice all the little nuances. Something's changed. We notice the nuances in someone's body language. And highly sensitive people can become overstimulated when there's too much going on, when there's too much noise, too much traffic, too much pressure. And we need more downtime and alone time to really just recuperate because we have that more open nervous system. So there's a lot of scientific research about being a highly sensitive person. Where the research really hasn't advanced quite yet is being an empath. So a lot of what I'll share with you is my own observations and experience, as well as working over the last 7 years with many clients and groups. And I call that being an extremely sensitive person. So I think most empaths are probably highly sensitive, HSPs, and they also have that additional ability to sense shifts in energy. So whereas I think of HSP as being someone who can notice all the subtleties in our physical environment and what's going on around us, an empath can notice all of the things that are beyond, underneath, around, in other realms, whatever you would like to call that. The things that are unseen, we actually can experience other people's emotions as if we are having that emotion ourselves, even though we didn't have any reason for that to happen. So if someone in the room or even someone in your neighborhood is like really sad, you could actually pick that up. As I said at the beginning, we can sense collective energy. Some empaths can sense environmental shifts and environmental energy. So things that are going on with the earth or shifts in the moon cycles. We're just very tuned in, and most empaths are highly, highly intuitive. So we think in these sort of metaphorical, big picture ways, and we put together all these patterns in these synchronicities. So we have highly sensitive people, and then a smaller number of those I think would be extremely sensitive people who have clairvoyance, all the clairs, mediums, all of that. People who are actually able to sense energy and to work in that subtle realm.
Thanks for that. Elizabeth is saying, I am an empath, highly sensitive person. I understand that I create everything I experience, including my empath encounters and the shadow elements that the encounters bring up to heal. Others go away feeling better. I take on their pain. Why would this keep happening now that the pattern is known to my consciousness?
Mm-hmm. Well, what's really powerful, and this was the card that we had looked at here, where we're starting to dive into those shadow aspects of ourselves. One of the things that empaths can fall into very easily, Anne, is a sense that we need to fix or save other people. And we feel another person's potential, we can sense like who they could possibly be, and we feel so deeply for them when they're hurting, when they're struggling. And not only do we feel what they're feeling, but it actually hurts us, right? And so a lot of times we can get into this role of being a rescuer, of someone who needs to come in, and we see this wounded soul, we see this wounded animal, anything like that, and we just want to make it better. We want to fix it. We want to heal it. There's something really beautiful about that. However, as Elizabeth said, it really can have an impact on your life because you start to take all of that stuff on. And what I say is that an empath would never gather up all of our emotional baggage, our wounding, anything that we're trying to heal, and we would never hand it over to someone else and say, here, I think you should carry this for a while. And yet we often will try to do that for other people. And what's happening in that moment is we are actually discounting their strength, their ability to manage and handle their own life challenges. The metaphysical school that I studied with said that Earth is a schoolhouse, and we came here to have these experiences. We intersect with other people, with situations, and these opportunities show up in order for us to learn particular life lessons. And one of the life lessons that's so prevalent for empaths is how to focus on self first before others. And this is one of the things that we're going to actually talk about extensively in the course, which is that being self-focused is not the same as being selfish. A selfish person will they will do things and get their needs met at the detriment of other people. It's all about them. It's all about them. And we've probably intersected. Most definitely we've intersected with people who are like that, right? And we can also have compassion for them because they're just trying to literally get their needs met, and this is the way they know how. And yet, part of our journey as an empath is to say to them and to learn to set those healthy boundaries is that, this thing is not mine to do. This thing is not mine to fix. This journey is this other person's to walk. And it can be really particularly challenging when it's family members or, say, your spouse or your significant other, to allow someone to struggle a little bit. And that means that what you have to do as an empath is be able to pull your energy back and hold them in their power. And when you hold them in their power, then you're holding yourself in your power. And we can't give from a depleted place. So when we're always giving, and I spent years doing this in multiple relationships, giving and giving and giving, and then I would get so exhausted, so depleted, because I never knew how to say no. I never knew how to put myself first, and eventually I realized this is absolutely what has to happen in order for me to show up fully in my own power and to be healthy and vital every single day. So this is a great question, and we're going to cover this extensively with some tips, some practices, and some interaction to be able to learn how to do that.
Thank you. That answered several questions for people. And it really seems that key is about allowing people to struggle and really holding them in their power, and ourselves in our powers to take care of ourselves and know that we will be fine too. Yes. I have a question from Krissa over on the Facebook page, and she asks, any advice for setting up a balanced daily routine to enhance growth?
Well, hi, Krissa, and thank you so much for asking that. Absolutely, it is essential as an empath to set up a balanced routine. We need some time that is structured, and then we also need some time in our day just to flow, just to be in that intuitive energy self. So we need both of those. And one of the things we will talk about in the course in this next 8 weeks is how to set up what we call bookends, right? Your morning and your evening routine are really important because in the morning, you're coming out of that dream state, out of that sleep state, and you're gently bringing yourself into the world and re-energizing your body and your mind and getting yourself ready to be out in the world and to do the things that you do. And at the end of the day, you want to also have that kind of downward, relaxation and getting yourself ready to go from being active in the world, being intersecting with all this energy and then moving yourself into that sleep state. So, one of the things that I do every single morning, and, this is going to vary for each person, and it's taken me a while to get here. So making these life changes can be a process, right? But I used to work, when I worked in a corporation, I used to get up at 6:30 in the morning, and I had to be at work, and I had to be on, and I had to be communicating with people and working at that early hour. And I realized that just did not work for me. It just depleted me. By about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I was totally exhausted. I wanted to take a nap, but I couldn't. And so as I moved more into my life's work and really getting into what nurtures me and supports me, I actually set up my schedule to work better for me as an empath, as a sensitive person. So I don't actually start my day until about 11 o'clock my time, and I get up around 9. and I drink some hot tea, and I go out on the patio, and I live next to a nature preserve. So I enjoy the animals that come in. I have a hummingbird that comes, and various animals. And I just really just take time to be quiet. I don't really get on media. Sometimes I'll read, whatever feels nurturing. I do some drumming, or I do some tarot readings. And it just is a gradual opening. And I think when we're trying to hustle, we're trying to be in this fast-paced sort of mentality that we've had so far in society, it just doesn't work for us. And what I'm really excited about in this particular time and what's happening is with everyone going within, being sheltered within, and going and staying home and slowing down a little bit, is like, this is an opportunity for us to role model that, what that looks like. And I believe that a daily routine, a life, a society that works for sensitive people actually works better for everyone, because really no one needs to be hustling and commuting in rush hour traffic. Like, there's a different way, I think, that we can set up our life and our world. And I just truly ask you just to sit down and write, a list of, like, what is it that makes you feel great in the morning, or what is it that you need at the end of the day, or do you need like a lunch break? And is that walking in the park? Is that, being with your fur baby, whatever that is, that nurtures you? I invite you to really just take time to say, no, this is really important for me to have this, and I'm going to make time to do that.
That's great. Thank you so much, Bevin. Lenore is asking on Facebook, are empaths more prone to depression and anxiety?
Yeah, so I have seen a lot of people talking about this in particularly on Facebook and in the social media groups. And I think that, anytime that you have a nervous system that's more open, and you're picking up more things, that could lead you into feeling more anxiety. It doesn't mean that we're destined to have that. It doesn't mean that is our lot in life, right? It just means that we have to be aware of what our mental state is, what our emotional state is, pretty much at all times. And these things are a signal for us. So when we get into depression, sometimes we go into depression because it's a signal that the way that life is happening has not worked for us. And I've been through that in my life. And it's like, okay, now there's a signal. Maybe I need to rest here. Or maybe I need to be aware that there's something emotionally that I'm not connecting with. Certainly I'm not a physician. So, there are people who have and struggle with chronic depression. And this would be something they would obviously want to talk to a therapist or a psychologist about. But I have seen that there can be more of this anxiety, and there can be some more of this depression. So I would say when those things come up, if it starts to become habitual and it becomes a problem, and it's actually interfering with your ability to interact in life, to be healthy, to have friendships, to carry on relationships, to pursue your career if that's what you want to do, then this would be a signal and a message that it's time to really look into that and to take that very seriously. I think that I'm really excited to see that our world and our society is starting to destigmatize mental condition, mental illness. And I don't even know that I like the word illness, although I guess that's, what it is. But that it's like, it's okay to talk about this. It's okay to say, wow, I'm really depressed and this is not working for me. My life isn't working for me. What's happening in society isn't working for me. And, I think I need some help with this. So it's super important. And this is something that I think I've noticed that a lot of sensitive people really struggle with is we are so much the givers, but asking for help, being vulnerable, it feels really difficult for us sometimes. And this is a part where you just kind of push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone and say, it's really important for me to get some support around that if I have those issues.
Thanks, Bevin. So we're here with Bevin Niemann, learning about her course, Mastering Your Energetic Field, which begins on Wednesday, May the 6th. Please join us by logging on to resilientempathcourse.com. You'll find all the details about this 8-module course and a link to register as well. So I'm going over to a question from Sarah. I'm a blind, highly sensitive empath and an emotional empath. So I feel all the feelings and emotions in and around me. I'm somewhat new to my awakening as an HSP. There has been many times in my life where I've tried to meditate or do guided meditations, etc. While you're supposed to let go and relax or go to your happy place, I have a very difficult time getting relaxed and letting go. If I sign up for your 8-week course, is there going to be a lot of guided meditation work? What can you share with Sarah, Bevin?
I think there will be some guided meditation work, and I'll have to say that, Sarah, I completely understand. I have a lot of difficulty going into what would maybe be considered traditional meditation, or there's many, many varieties of meditation, but the meditation where you're supposed to get silent and not have the thoughts. And it's actually when I go into meditation, my version of it, I guess, when I have the most insight. So what I do is I just allow whatever's coming up at that moment to arise. Whether that is, boy, that brings up some strong emotions in me, especially if you're an emotional empath, as I am as well. There's some strong emotions wanting to flow through, and there are times when I'll just cry and allow that to come through in that meditative state. There are times when I will have visions or images come in, or I'll hear sounds or a message, or whatever that may be. So I don't know if, for example, music can be very powerful for me. It can be a piece where I'm asking a question about something and there's something really on my mind, and I'll just turn on and I'll say, okay, what do I want to play now? And I just do that from this intuitive sense. And then usually the song lyrics that flow through are giving me a message that I need to hear at this time. There's lots of ways that you can do this. Some people like to move their body, and it's more of a dance. So meditation to me is about going within, right? So I know that there's a very traditional viewpoint of that. In my course, I like to use different kinds of modalities and different sorts of practices, because different people learn in different ways. So some people are more auditory learners, and some people learn more through doing. And so I like to bring in those various pieces. And so hopefully that helps to release the pressure that you have to do this perfectly. You have to empty everything. There are times when I'm able to empty, but then there are times when something's really heavy on my heart and I need to just feel, or I need to release in some way. Sometimes I'll just take a nice hot bath with Epsom salts and just do that sort of baptism piece where I'm cleansing and purifying myself. So finding those things that work for you is going to be most important. Each person is going to have a different way that they make this connection, and get into a place where they're connecting with their higher self and the greater web of consciousness, source, God, whatever you like to call it.
Thanks for those great suggestions, Bevin. We have a question over here. It's anonymous, but she's saying that she listened to the opening event that you did the other day, and even though she's sensitive, she says, I have a difficult time really sensing into my body. She says, I know this is an odd thing because I'm really sensitive to so many things. So how do I develop my ability to sense myself more completely? It kind of ties into the question you were just asking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I have found in my own experience, and then with many of the people I've worked with, that we can be kind of floating like up here, out in the ethers, up above our head, or who knows where we're going, right? And we forget that we actually have this human vessel, this physical vessel. And I sort of dragged my body around for years, like it was just something to house my mind and my heart and to get things done. And several years ago, I decided that I was really going to enter into this year-long affirmation, which is I will treat my body as my best friend. And one of the things that we will talk about in this 8-week course is how your body is a powerful antenna. So your body has the enormous ability to pick up and to tell you things about what's happening in your environment, what's going on for you, whether that's through what feels relaxed or what feels really tight and constricted, whether that's if you have certain pain points in your body, things are stiff and you're like, why are my shoulders so stiff today? Okay, so have I been holding a lot on my shoulders? And you're just starting to come into this conversation and this connection with your physical vessel. We came here, our souls came here, in my belief, to have a human experience. And this is a part of having that experience. So nurturing our body with healthy food. And I've taken a huge journey on that process of moving from eating a lot of junk food in the past to really eating a very much like more whole foods based diet, movement, and whatever that feels like for you. So there are many ways, but when you're highly intuitive, you know, it's very easy to be out of body and need to be coming back into this physical experience. There can be grounding. There's a lot of ways that you can do that, but it is extremely important for us to do that because honestly, what this current situation has shown us is our immune system, our health is so vitally important. If we don't have that, you know, it's like, what do we have? So we could have all these achievements, we could do all these things, but you know, the physical vessel is a part of what we're here to experience, and it's really important to take care of it.
Here's one. I'm particularly interested in how an empath can move stuck energy.
Yeah, stuck energy. No, I don't think any of us have that, right? It's like when we feel that resistance inside of ourselves. If we feel that resistance, so here's a tip. If we feel that resistance in someone else, it's always great to say, okay, where is that same resistance inside of me, right? So, and then I'll kind of chuckle, and I think it's good, and it's a sign of gradually coming into spiritual maturity to be able to sort of laugh a little bit at our fallacies and our humanness. And so that stuck energy, when we start to feel it, the body is a great place to find stuck energy. It can also be in your auric field. And the thing that I really want to talk about with this is that energy is a constantly moving and transforming system, right? So our energy field isn't sort of this finite, well-defined, here's what it is, this is how it's going to be. We are always shifting and changing. And sometimes that energy is moving rapidly, and we can tell that it's moving rapidly because things are moving forward or we're making headway. And sometimes it feels like it's just stopped, but it's never stopped. Energy is always transforming, and it just may be going slower. So this is the point where it gets important for us to say, maybe it's actually not the right timing yet. So we have these human desires, right? Like there are things that we want, and like I want that to happen now. I'm an Aries, so that happens to me all the time as a fire sign. I'm like, okay, it's time to do this thing, and then I realize it's not the right time, and so it's learning how to move with that energy. And perhaps if there's something that you're really deeply in resistance to, and you feel that stuck energy, maybe it's not the right path. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe it's not the right person, the right career, the right job. And you say, okay, well, what if I didn't keep pushing against that and trying to do that and make it happen? And instead I just let go and I move with where the energy doesn't feel stuck. And then you'll see that just starts to open up, right? And so I'm a big fan of using life as sort of an exploration, or I call it the intuitive laboratory, where I'm like, okay, I'll put this out there and this out there and this, and I'll try this. And then whatever kind of resonates will come back. And whatever doesn't, it'll just sort of have this barrier. And I go, okay, it's not that. And so I start to let go of being attached to like what it has to be in order for the thing that it is supposed to be to open up. And I don't say that I truly understand exactly like how that works, why something is more open and resonant than something else, until usually afterwards when I'm able to look back on it. But this is the process of learning how to work with the energy instead of against it.
Jade is asking what a couple of others are asking, a pretty practical question. How do you let people know that you're an HSP? I worry about my family and colleagues not taking me seriously.
Yes, absolutely. So this piece is so vital. When do you tell people that you're a sensitive person? How do you do that? And who can you trust to do that? So I found out about being an HSP and an empath about 7 years ago, although I had always been one since I was born. And I started talking to my own family about that. And I think there was a little bit of skepticism. So I just told them as much as we could have that conversation. And then I just waited. And I kept talking about it. And then over time, this actually became my calling, like my life's work, to come in and to do this work with sensitive people. And as it began to unfold, the people around me, as I began to really step into my own authenticity, really accept and honor this about myself, other people began to go, hey, I think this is a thing. And it's really funny because most of my friends and then a lot of my family are also highly sensitive. So then they had this sort of awakening and understanding for themselves. I do recognize, though, that many people who are out there will be in a family where maybe you were the only sensitive person, and perhaps you felt like you were made wrong for that, or misunderstood, or why were you crying, or this shouldn't affect you as much, and you experience that, and I understand that was really painful. I experienced that more out in the world with friends and with school and that kind of thing, and so what I say is, look at the relationships you have in your life. Look at who is already supportive of you, who already accepts you for who you are without knowing about a particular label, and talk to those people first. Just say, wow, I had this realization about myself. Here's the book, here's the book about being highly sensitive. Here's a book about being an empath. It's been read by, hundreds of thousands of people. So obviously there is something to this. I'd like to tell you and share with you a few things about my experiences and how I experience life. And the other piece that I talk about, Anne, is that we may expect that they're going to have an understanding of what it's like to be that sensitive. But if their nervous system and brain isn't wired that way, they may not be able to completely understand what it's like. What you're looking for is a person who's compassionate, who's accepting, who's honoring of you. If you know for certain that there are people in your life who do not honor that, honor who you are, you may just wait and not tell them about this at this point. It seems strange for me to say that because I definitely teach about being authentic, but that's a process. And the last thing you need when you're very first waking up to this and learning who you are and going through that process of self-discovery is to have someone kind of shut you down for that. So I would say use your discernment and really just pick one or two people that you think are going to be really open to that. Even if you're, say, at work and you notice that there might be another deep thinker who's really heart connected and empathetic and passionate, and maybe I could talk with them and just say, this is something I've learned about myself. Could I share this with you? And the other thing I say is I never ever tell someone, well, you're an empath or you're an HSP, even if I think that may be the case, because people need to be able to self-identify with what is what resonates with them. And it may take them some time, or they may never identify, even if it seems like they are. And so this is, most people don't like to be told who they are. We don't either. But yeah, use your discernment and just find one or two people that you could open up with, and then seek out community. That would be my second thing, is that there are lots and lots of empath and highly sensitive communities out there, and just start getting in there and talking with people who already identify as such, because you can support each other and be like, wow, I'm not the only one that has these kind of experiences. So those would be my suggestions around that.
Yeah, that reminds me of your story about one of your first steps of creating community when you called sensitives together for that class in your home. So it seems that there is some real healing and opening to that. So thank you, Bevin. So we have time for more questions, but before we take those, I want to share just a few details about mastering your energetic field as an empath. So this is really going to be a powerful 8 weeks with Bevin, where you'll learn to master your energetic field. The 8-module course takes place on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific. That's starting May the 6th. You'll receive audio and video replays, transcripts, and all other materials through our course homepage. And I'd like to remind you that we offer a no-risk money-back guarantee on all of our courses. We want to make sure you absolutely love it. So for this course, you have until May the 27th to make that decision. So do join us. And as an added option, all participants are welcome to connect to a private course Facebook group. And this allows you to stay connected to the fellow participants as well as to Bevin. Everyone who registers receives Mastering Your Energetic Field bonus collection. So I'll share a little bit about the bonuses that come with this course. Boundaries, porous, rigid, or somewhere in between, is an audio teaching from Bevin. Healing for Empaths, highly sensitive persons. This is an audio dialogue between Dave Markovitz and Bevin Niemann. Finding courage to share your heart's message so you can serve in a bigger, bolder way. This is an audio with Tree Franklin and Bevin. And when you register by midnight Pacific, Thursday, April 30th, for those of you that just know you're stepping in, we want to just award you a little bit by offering this special bonus called Empaths Finding True Love at Last. This is a PDF from Bevin. So as an empath, you might wonder, is it even possible to find someone who honors your unique way of being, who accepts all of you? So this PDF called Empaths Finding True Love at Last is an informative guidebook and helps you recognize, let go of, and heal from dysfunctional relationships so you can receive what you want and need in romantic relationships. So join us, register by Thursday, April 30th, Pacific, midnight Pacific time, and receive that special bonus. All right, I'm going over to this question from Glenda, which fits right in here. Could you please tell me how much time would be needed to devote to this course, from a minimum required to truly benefiting from the course to the maximum for someone wanting to go deeply into this material? I'd love to take this journey with you. I believe I could really benefit from it, and I also want to make sure I'm not overcommitting myself, which is probably a good thing to look at, yeah?
Yes, Glenda, that is an excellent thing. I think anytime we decide whether we're going to commit, and I talk a lot about empowered no's and empowered yeses, it's always like, okay, what is involved here, and what else do I have on my plate, and can I do this? So I know that our live classes, and consequently the recording, if you're not able to join us live, will be a 90-minute session. We will also have some time at the end of each session for you to connect in private breakout groups, like sharing circles, with other people who are in the course. So if that's something that you want to use as a practice to go a little bit deeper and to get that sense of community we talked about, that's going to be a beautiful way to do that. And I believe that'll be about 20 to 30 minutes after each of the live programs. And then I will offer a deepening practice, which maybe would be an hour or two, I guess, during the week, just to help you take a deeper dive and integrate some of the teachings into your day-to-day life. You know, it's really great if we get onto a course, and I've taken a lot of courses and a lot of mentorships and things in my life. And one of the things I always do when I decide to commit to this is to go all in and to really experience every aspect of the practice to the best of my ability, given other life responsibilities. So yeah, that would be a little bit about what's involved. And again, this is a lifelong journey of discovery. So 8 weeks, you're going to get some beautiful, connected practices and tools. What I like to do is provide tools that people can just like carry around in your tool belt, in your toolkit for the rest of your life, and you can use these over and over. And then part of mastering your energy field is doing these practices on a regular basis. You know, this morning, one of the practices that I shared in the recent live event was how to expand your energy field, right, instead of contracting it. And so this morning, as I got up, I went into that space and I practiced that for myself. So I think, you know, to get the maximum benefit, you want to really commit to being on the live calls if possible, because that's kind of where the energy comes in. However, if you need to listen to the recording, you can actually sense into the energy of all the people, because, you know, there really is no time and space. And so that is a great option for those of you who maybe have a schedule that isn't working as well. You can take some time out at the end of the day in your evening, and that could be part of your wind down routine, is to really connect in with us, and then take a chance to do the deepening practices and get go just a little bit farther in and see what's there for you. I think this will be a beautiful journey.
Amma is asking, I was told once that I have an energy leak. Can you speak to this phenomenon, how it happens, and how it can be healed? Thank you, she says.
Well, thank you. You know, it's interesting as we talk about the energy field, and I studied spiritual anatomy pretty extensively. The auric field has many layers to that. And, you know, I've heard of energy leaks. I'm not as personally familiar with that. My own understanding is that, well, there's various traditions that talk about this, I guess. So in shamanism, and I would say I'm just sort of at the beginning stages of learning about being a shamanic practitioner, but there's what's called soul retrieval, right? Where sometimes a portion of ourselves during a traumatic event or during something which is really difficult kind of goes missing. And that's what a really beautiful, you know, connected and well-trained in the lineage shaman would be able to do, is to bring back in that soul piece that was missing. I think that we can also do some of that work ourselves if we have studied long enough to do that. As far as the energy leaks, as I was explaining before, like, I think that our energy field, I don't really see it like a bubble. I see it as a malleable, mutable envelope, right? So we have our own energy field, and then there's all the energy of everything that's going on around us. And in one hand, on the spiritual side, we are all in the oneness. So there is really no me and others, or me and the tree, or me and another person. On the other hand, part of our journey here in this humanness is to become an individual and to really be clear about who we are. And I would say that most people on earth, their spiritual journey is to be born in, they sort of have that forgetting process, and then they go on a path to remember that they're a part of the oneness. I would say that empaths seem to be born into the oneness. Like, we already know how to merge. We already know how to, you know, to connect and commune with everything around us. Our journey is to learn how to create sort of an energetic boundary, right? So if you have a leak, it may be that there's a piece of yourself, there's a piece of what's going on that you are unconsciously, probably, or sometimes consciously, choosing to focus that energy, to focus that attention, that time, your vital life force, for example, in a specific direction that is not serving you. And what I would say is that when you start to pull that back, and so you can actually do this exercise where you feel that some of the particles of your particular energy field, this envelope that you're creating, are actually scattered around. There are days when I'm like, whoo, I feel really scattered, and it's time to just kind of pull everything back in. So we can practice contracting, and we can practice expanding. And sometimes we need to do one and need to do the other. The difference that I see with this is that we're doing it from a conscious place. We're having a realization that something's happening here. I'm feeling really drained. Why am I feeling drained? What is it I need to change and shift? And do I need to pull my energy back in? Do I need to expand my energy out and hold my space and set boundaries? And that's obviously one of the things that we're going to talk about, which is so, so vitally important. And this piece really allows you to manage that yourself. So I think before I started doing these energy practices, everything was just all over the place. All of my molecules and everything were scattered everywhere. And my attention and my time was just pulled and tugged by everything and anything that anyone else wanted from me. And then when we start to make some more conscious choices about what we're doing, similar to the previous person who asked the question, like, okay, is this something I want to invest in? Is this something I'm going to be able to follow through with? When we start to ask ourselves those questions and we get really honest about that, then anything that's draining off is managed. Then we can manage it, we can decide it, we can choose it, and we can, manage that field and that envelope and become our own individualized self while also maintaining that heart, soul, oneness connection at the same time.
Jules is saying, it does an impact on my life as I take on the burdens of others. I would say no, then I stay the whole day feeling guilty. And then I turn around and give the last that I have to help the person I said no to. My question is, how do I say no and stick to it without feeling guilty?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have experienced this so many times, so I completely relate to what you're saying. So the reason that we say no and then we feel guilty is that we feel like we're going to be letting someone else down. Like, no feels like a vibration of putting up a wall, putting up a hard line. It feels very aggressive, I think, to many people who are sensitive. There are ways that you can say something and the ways that you can choose to hold those boundaries that help you and also hold that space for that other person. So one of the things that I say is that it doesn't have to be an either or situation. If you truly want to help, and it's really important to understand the motivation about why you're helping. Are you helping because, as we talked about earlier, you're taking someone's baggage because you feel sorry for them? You're entering into that kind of sympathy area and you're not affirming that they're strong enough to handle it. If you're doing it from that place, then that's something to address and to be aware of. If you're saying, oh, this person genuinely needs my help, and many empaths, as a matter of fact, almost all of us, feel like we're here to serve, we're here to give, and we're here to help. And that's a beautiful, beautiful gift that we bring to this planet. And so we can say no if we know for certain that it's just not something that's going to resonate. And then you have to do some inner self-talk and some inner strengthening, if you will, to hold steady. So that person may give you some pushback. They may say, well, it's only going to take this amount of time, and then you have to say, no, I just really can't. And you just have to keep practicing and practicing and practicing and telling that inside voice of yourself that feels really guilty. I understand that you feel guilty. I understand that you feel like this person isn't going to be able to manage that without us. I'm affirming that they can. And a lot of times we learned these particular situations from when we were children, because there was some dynamic going on in the family where we felt like we needed to be the one to smooth things over, to take care of everything, to manage other people's emotions, to be the strong one, to be caregiving for others. We learned some of this, or we watched a parent perhaps who was sensitive doing some of this, and this is where it can cross that line into codependency, where we're taking care of someone else to the detriment of ourselves. Now, if you say, well, I can't do everything that you're asking of me, but here's what I could do. I know a person who has that skill set. What if I could connect you by email? Or I could do this portion of it, but that's all that I can commit to at this time, given the other things that I have on my plate. So it doesn't have to be an either or situation. If you just know for certain it's not something for you, then it is important, pardon me, to practice holding that space. And one of the things we don't like is for other people to feel disappointed, because we feel that, right? We feel their disappointment. And it's okay for someone else to be disappointed. They will move on. They will get over it. And you will actually be able to take care of yourself and to sorry, I just lost my train of thought for a moment. You'll be able to take care of yourself, and you'll be able to be vital, and you're not giving from that depleted place. So yeah, it's so important to learn and to practice these things that we do in order to master anything. We do it over and over. And what will happen is the more that we realize this is what I want to work on, I want to work on learning how to say no in a way that's empowered and strong, is the more people will probably show up in your life to allow you to practice that. So you can thank them for that. And you can decide whether it's a hard no, or whether it's a partial no, or whether you could do part of it but not all of it, and then realize it's okay for them to be disappointed. And I think that will really help you to move forward in this aspect.
Bevin, thank you for all those really practical tools. You've clearly been through it yourself, so you just have this really practical way of sharing it. So I so appreciate it. I'd love to ask you what you are most looking forward to sharing in this course. And you've done a lot of teaching, you have a community. What is about this particular course that you're really jazzed to share with everyone?
Thank you, Anne. I think for me, it is just a message that empaths and sensitive people may have internalized this idea that somehow we're weaker. Somehow we're unable to handle the world. Somehow we're, less than other people. We can't handle as much. And what I started to realize recently is that if you're a person who has both navigated your own challenges and you have been present to all the energy and all the emotions and other physical sensations and whatever it is you pick up from all these other people, wow, look, you're actually like doubly strong. You're like twice as strong, twice as resilient. And I think it's really time for us to recognize our level of resilience. And, for anyone who's out there thinking, I wonder if this is the right journey for me to take over this next 8 weeks, I just invite you to consider that perhaps, now is the time for you to shift this perspective that you've had about yourself as an empath. Whether you've thought that everyone misunderstands you, or if you've thought that maybe you didn't fit in, or maybe you couldn't express who you really are, maybe it wasn't safe to do that. Maybe it's time to start recognizing your strengths and being open to the potential of your gifts, and seek others like you to connect and uplift each other, right? Because as you know, Anne, we're stepping into this new era of consciousness, and this is what the Shift Network is all about, is spreading this awareness and bringing these beautiful programs out into the world so that we can gather these beautiful souls, these millions of souls, who each have a unique role to play in our future, whether that's in your family system or in your community or getting on a larger stage, whatever that looks like for you. It's time for us to step forward and to recognize ourselves. We have to honor ourselves before others can honor us. And that's what this is all about, is this journey of coming into this awareness, moving from, kind of being in that little hidden space to starting to let yourself to be seen, and managing your energy field and empowering yourself and learning how to say no, and choosing those healthy relationships in your life, and then expanding yourself out to discover, why you're here and who you're meant to be. So I am just so excited, so energized, and so ready to get started next week with this wonderful program.
I am too. Thank you so much for that. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Mastering Your Energetic Field begins Wednesday, May 6th. And again, please visit resilientempathcourse.com. You can read all about the details of each of the modules, and you can register there as well. And remember, if you do so by midnight, April the 30th, you will receive the special bonus. It's a PDF guide entitled Empaths Finding True Love at Last. Bevin, any final words for our listeners before we close today?
I just thank each one of you who came in to ask these questions, to do your seeking. I just honor you, your bright lights shining all over our world right now. You are amazing. You are special. You are worthy of having the life that you really want. And as one of the viewers mentioned, being a powerful creator. So yeah, let's get started together.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. On behalf of everyone here at the Shift Network, we wish you well, and we look forward to having you on this course or one in the future. Thanks, Bevin. Thanks, everyone.